Hey everyone, welcome to Wezesha Wednesday. I'm really excited to be doing this Wezesha Wednesday today. So, for a long time, people have asked me, okay, now you've talked about the fumble process, we've talked about early career, we've talked about mid career. How do you get to the next level career? I'm talking about advanced level career. So I figured today I'll do a Wezesha Wednesday where I talk about strategy and how you can level strategy to achieve next level career. So hopefully this is going to make sense to a lot of people who are at that point where they're going to the next level career. But even, you know what, this one's really going to help those of you entrepreneurs and business owners to figure out how to leverage strategy to achieve your next level, next step in that entrepreneurship, whether it's a financial goal, whether it's a customer achievement goal, whatever goal it is. I'm hoping this can help. It's going to be a little bit, what's the right word? Anyway, you know what? How about we go through it, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think after you watch this. And at the end of it, I think what we'll do is probably talk to what the next steps would be if this is something you're interested in. So without further ado, let's talk about leveraging strategy to achieve next level career. So first thing that a lot of people ask me is, what is strategy? So I've worked on strategy for a long time. I'm talking decades. I've taught this subject. I've implemented a lot of quote unquote strategic initiatives, but I'm always like, what does that even mean? So those of you who wonder what strategy is, it's not something that at least in my mind, it's not something that's really clinical, that our strategy is defined as blah, 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 blah. Really, what I think strategy is just about making choices. So strategy means given finite resources, given finite money, given finite people, given finite technology, what choices do I make? So strategy is all about making choices. And that choice then allows you to meet and achieve an organizational goal or a personal goal, etc. So strategy combines with plans and goals to help you meet your objective. But again, strategy, if someone ever asks you, hey, what is strategy? What's the definition of strategy? I would say this: strategy is about making choices. So, what kind of choices are you faced with today in your business? What kind of choices are you what kind of choices are you having to make in your company, in your job, in some of the projects you're running? So we're going to talk about all that. And I know there's a lot of academic research there. There's a lot of practitioner research there. I think one of the best books that I've ever read on strategy is called Playing to Win. So Playing to Win is a great book, and I've drawn a lot of the content from Playing to Win plus some other things to help walk through what this strategy is. So the first thing in making choices is to formulate what that strategy is. So you have to document what's your current strategy, what are you currently doing? And then you have to decide, okay, now that I've done this, either I continue doing this or implementing this strategy, or I do something different. Then once you define that, you have to go through a process, a strategy formulation framework that I'm going to walk through with you. And once you go through that strategy formulation framework, you'll come up with different things, artifacts called strategy maps, business process models. You'll come up with a balanced scorecard, and then based on that, you will actually go into the execution phase, and that's when you establish projects. That's when you look at your key performance indicators and see how they map to what you had originally created as your strategy. So there's a lot that I'm gonna unpack, but I'll try and do it in a way that's consumable and obviously open to any comments you have once you go through this. So I'm really excited. I hope I'm presenting this, by the way. I don't even know if it's working, but let's give it a shot. Okay. Before we get to this strategy map, you should have sat down and decided, what is that niche? What is that differentiator that you have? And so when it comes to either your own personal goals or it comes to a business goal, They may be some things that you already think this is what I want to do in terms of of strategy. I want to work with people who are this type of person. I want to work with these people who I can offer this type of services. I want to work with this niche that no one has ever discovered, or people have talked about it and no one has worked in it. So you may have to sit down and really go through an exercise where you identify what that niche is. Now, when it comes to your career, at this point, you went through the career choices you made at the beginning, you went through the mid-career choices that you made, and then now you're sitting down and saying, okay, how can I bring value to this company so that I can go to next level career? And so this is a framework that I hope will help you. The first thing you need to do is to put together a strategy map. And how do you put together a strategy map? There's 4 things, and I've listed them on the left. And again, this is from Playing to Win. First 2 are outcomes. The bottom 2 are inputs to get that outcome. So the first thing you do is sit down and figure out what's a financial objective that you must make choices on. What's a financial objective that you must make choices on? And you write them down. Make 100,000 in 1 year. Save the company 20 million in 5 years. Accelerate revenue by 5,000 in 3 years. Whatever that financial objective is, because remember, you are doing next level career stuff. You're not an implementer at this point, you're a strategy person. So you have to put yourself in that mindset where you're creating winning aspirations for the company. And then once you create that financial one, you have to look at what needs to be true for the customer so the customer is willing to pay me to meet that objective. So we'll go through an exercise, but that's the second thing you have to figure out. Okay, do I need more customers? Do I need less customers but higher value customers? Then you have to define what in your process needs to work in order to allow you to meet your customer objective and your financial objectives. And then finally, what talent and technology is required for you to meet your customer objective and your financial objective. So for now, I just want you to recognize there is a framework that you can use with outcomes related to financial and customer and inputs related to process, talent, and technology. So here's an example. And I'll use this example here, but I'll give you 2 or 3 other examples. Let's say you decide you're a brewing company like Starbucks or whatever, right? So the brewing company has to sit down and say, what are their financial goals? And you can see they've listed them out here. Rapidly grow profits, boost same location revenue, realize significant revenue from new locations, maintain low operating costs. Now you can actually put dollar figures to this, but at the highest level, these are the financial objectives you want. Now it becomes very interesting. What needs to be true for people to pay you enough money for you to meet these financial goals? So from a customer lens, a customer needs to find something refreshing that they can take with them or sit and enjoy. So immediately you have to think about what will my location look like? It has to be a location that's convenient to me. Oh, wow, that means I probably need to open many locations. I need something that can serve me quickly. Oh, maybe I need to do a drive-through. So this illustration is extremely important because unless you know the outcomes you're looking for, you will not be able to pursue next level career with strategy. So let me give you another example from, let's say, a company. Let's take my son's favorite company, McDonald's, right? McDonald's, definitely financial is what's listed in the first line. They definitely want to rapidly grow profits. They definitely want to realize significant revenue from locations. They want to boost same location revenue. They want to maintain low operating costs. So what's unique or what's interesting about McDonald's or Starbucks? You find them in every single place. It's not by mistake that you find them in every single place. It's because as part of their strategy, they said, for us to make that amount of money, we need to be everywhere. So they made a choice to build locations everywhere that was convenient, that could serve someone quickly, and You could find a refreshing treat and something that's standard. You know, you can go anywhere in the world and be served literally the same way in that other part of the world as you would in the US. And the reason is they created this customer experience that requires predictability. So my son always says, I love McDonald's fries because he can rely on them on being standard wherever he goes, right? Okay, so that's an example of McDonald's. Now, what about you in your next level career? You need to sit down and you need to decide, what is it that I want to provide value to for this company? You need to sit down and figure out, in the company today, what is it? What are the key performance indicators of that company's that company's strategy? And for a lot of traditional companies, it's all about cost savings. So you need to sit down and create a map like this, because this map will then allow you to get to the next level. So you have to sit down and say, okay, for the year 2025, I want to save my company $2 million for that year. For the year 2025, I want to maintain low operating costs. For the year 2025, I want to increase revenue for the company. So I want you to sit down and really look at your company and see what the company goals are. What have they told the shareholders? And you have to ask yourself, how can I be part of that goal? Then the next thing you have to do is to say, for that to be true, what needs to be true about the customer? And in this case, the customer could be an internal customer that you deal with, or it could be an external customer. If it's an internal customer, you have to say things like, okay, I need all teams that I work with cross-functionally to be able to move rapidly, right? I need all teams that I work with to be able to access information rapidly so that they can move forward. For example, I'm in operations and let's say there's a sales team. I need the sales team to be able to see or to be able to communicate with me what they've promised to their customer. So just simple language that will allow you to see from the customer lens what needs to be true in order for me to get financial benefit that I'm looking at in terms of outcome. Now comes the exciting part. Now that you've created those two outcomes, customer and financial, what do you need to do internally? And this is where the rubber meets the road. You have to figure out what processes either need to be initiated or improved in order to get to those customer and financial outcomes. So in this example, McDonald's does this all the time, offers new and enticing drinks. They offer seasonal drinks. They understand target segments, so they advertise very local advertising. They launch new locations all the time, these locations popping up. They identify opportunities for growth. How are we going to grow our McDonald's, or in this case, Beantown Brew strategy? In terms of efficiency, they make it so fast. Like now you go to McDonald's and you find people actually ordering through that little system, right? Like you don't have to wait in queue and wait to go talk to the cashier. You actually use a little automated system to order. And then relentlessly pursuing economies of scale. How can we just invest one thing, like one system, and that system is able to impact positively thousands of locations? So that's what that internal process looks like. And then talent and tech. How do you retain high performance team members? How do you rapidly identify and onboard new talent? How do you optimally leverage data? Now, again, I know this sounds very abstract because it's looking at a company, in this case, an illustrative company called Beantown Brew Strategy Map, Beantown Brew. But again, you can apply this same strategy map to millions of companies out there. When I worked at Verizon, we used this because at that point in time, the biggest thing we wanted to do was cost savings. And so we created strategy maps that would help us with that. You could be in another company that's more innovative, and for them, it's about high margins. So what are the things that need to be true for them to get high margins? On a personal perspective, for your career growth, at this point in time, you need to be able to understand what your company's overall strategy is, and then you have to help the company create a strategy map like this. That's what's going to take you to the next career. You're not going to be the one necessarily implementing it. I mean, obviously, it would be great if you could, but more importantly, for this particular Wezesha Wednesday, I want you to think to yourself, do I know what my company goals are? And if I do, which is great, can I create a strategy map like this so that I can offer that strategy map and that strategy process to the company? Because if I do, then you're next level. Okay, so I'll walk through each of the things that you do. Okay, so that illustrative framework also allows you to create what's called a balanced scorecard. And a balanced scorecard is where you put in what your objective is, what your measures are, what the baseline is, how it is today, what your target is, and to beat those targets, what initiatives you need to spin off. And I'll give examples for all of this, but I want you to spend a little time here. Every person who does, think about even personal coaches. One of my favorite, Jen Mokami, when she's doing weight loss, this is the same balanced scorecard that she probably uses. She says, what's your objective? Lose 15 pounds. How are you going to measure it? Well, 15 pounds. And what's your baseline? I'm starting at 180. What's your target? It's going to be whatever, 180 minus 15, right? 165. Okay, if my target is 165, what initiatives do I need to start up so that I can lose those 15 pounds? I need to do more cardio. I need to eat less. I need to stop eating chocolate. I need to stop, eating late at night. Let's say those four. Those four then become initiatives that feed into that 15 weight loss target, and you start tracking them. That's exactly what a balanced scorecard is. So you can use it for personal, you can use it for your company, or you can use it as a tool to advance your career because you're creating this balanced scorecard for your company. It may exist. If it does, leverage it. If it doesn't, this is guaranteed to take you next level. So now that we've talked through sort of like the overall framework, let me talk to how it would work step by step. Okay? Again, this is what it would look like, is going through the strategy map on the left-hand side, creating objectives, creating measures, creating target, creating initiative. Oh, by the way, let me say one more. Actually, you know what? I'll get to that. Sorry, I am so excited when I talk about this stuff. Okay, so how do you apply the process? First, you start by creating a high-level end-to-end business process model. So you have to figure out for the organization that you're in, for the domain that you're in, for the thing that you work on a daily basis, what does that business process model look like? What does that map look like? You have, in this case, you have a list of customers that you're going through. From those, you have to get a prospect. From those, you have to figure out, create a lead list. From that lead list, you have to identify those people who perhaps could buy into your services. You have to qualify them. So this is like, let's say, a revenue generating model to get new customers, right? So you have to go through step by step identifying what that process is. I cannot tell you what it is for you because you know the organization you're in, you know the kind of work you do. So where I'm at right now, I work in operations, and I have a business process model that says these are the high level 6 or 7 steps that take me from concept design of a machine learning, compute, all the way to scaling that machine learning compute in all of our data centers. Now, it could be a million steps long, but at least I know that 10 to 12 things, outcomes of each of those tasks that then get me to the end. And so I encourage you to do it for your own company. How do I create a business process model that takes from the inputs that I receive from different organizations to the output that I will give to the company? And there's a lot of tools for that. One is called a SIPOC. supply, input, process, output, customer, and I can help you define that for yourself. But without these tools, you will not advance to the next level of your career because you won't be able to implement strategy. So start by creating a high-level end-to-end process model. Next thing, talk through your playing to win strategy. Remember the framework we used? The financial, the customer, the process, talent, and technology. And you'll probably come up with something like this, right? You'll come up with 3 financial goals, maybe 9 customer goals. Then you'll probably come up with like 20 processes that can be improved and like 15 things that you want to do for talent and training. Now, the question a lot of people ask me is, are you going to implement all of them? No. So once you list them, and this is not you listing them out yourself, right? I think at this point in your career, you should be able to bring in many people from different organizations and say, I'm doing a strategy mapping exercise. So everyone comes in and provides input. And suddenly you have this whole group of things that you can use to inform what your strategy is going to be. So the next thing you need to do is to prioritize. So what I've done here on the board, you see, the red is what is put, and then the green are the ones that we're going to focus on. So you actually identify all of them that from a brainstorming session, but then you go in and you say, these are the 5 or 6 most important process changes that I want to make. These are the 5 or 6 most important talent, team, and technology things that I want to change. Once you identify them, you figure out if you already have a measure for them. That's called a scorecard construct. And you end up having something like this. Financial, generate Y millions of dollars in new revenue by 2016 and by 2017, right? As an example. For that to be true, you want to make doing business with a customer just says, I just want to make it easy to do business with you. Got it. And then what does that mean for the customer in terms of your process? Oh, you have to create a process that allows them to very easily do business with them. And because of that, you may have to, implement something in your systems, right? I'll give you a really good example. For those of us who've been using mobile phones for millions of years, right? Talk those days of the yellow one, whatever it was called. But remember how difficult it was to get a new phone compared to how it is today. So I recently got a new phone, and it took, I think it took like 5 minutes from going to the store, which I didn't have to buy, I just ended up going there, going to a Verizon store, saying I want a new phone, selecting the new phone. Suddenly they send me a link. I clicked on the link, it opened up, it's allowed them to access my information. Next thing they said, okay, what phone? You want this phone? Okay, cool. It ported all my information from my old phone to my new phone, and I walked out with a new phone. I know I'm exaggerating. It didn't take 5 minutes, but it probably took like 15 minutes. 10 years ago, that was like a 2-day process. You get a new phone, CG, they do credit check, they do this, then you have to fill out these forms manually, they have to approve this, approve that, and then CG, they say, yeah, it's going to take 5 hours to move your information, and then your WhatsApp messages don't come, so you have to go to customer service. So think about how seamlessly they've made that for you. Let me give you another example, streaming services, right? In Mexico right now, open up Netflix, it just says, click whatever, take a picture of this QR code, open it up, put in your information, and I have Netflix just like I'm at home, right? So that's, someone sat down, a next level career person sat down and said, this is what needs to be done in order for me to take my career to the next level. So I'm giving you examples where strategy just doesn't come by chance, it comes by choice, okay? And here's what a balanced scorecard looks like. What's the metric? What's the description? You always have to figure out where the source is, because if you're like me, you're always challenged, where did you get that information? So the source, you have to have our target by the end of the year, and that kind of helps you. So I know I've talked really fast. So hopefully somewhere in there, this has really, really helped you at least identify what your strategy is. So